Hello, hello, and welcome to yet another season of Bramble On, as Love Among the Brambles, the show to which we are dedicated, enters its 1769th smash season in dim Omicron. Some of you may not recognize the artwork and more importantly, the music attending this video. Well, that is because we have become très moderne. We have moved out of the 1700s with dim cue music into the 1960s. So as you can see, we are very cutting edge. As was mentioned at the end of last season, our attendant show, Pruned with Impunity, that dealt with deleted scenes that the producers and directors deemed unnecessary to move the plot forward. That show is no longer in existence. Why, you ask? Were we cancelled? Were we cut? Were we deleted? No. It is because you rose up, our viewers, and you let the producers know in no uncertain terms that scenes deleted were not all right. It was not acceptable. And so, scenes will no longer be deleted, and we, here at Bramble On, will be able to give you commentary on every single scene shot. The cutting room floor has been cleared. Now, let's move on to the first episode of the new season. It is episode 15916, Who's a Fool Now? I do believe this refers to the fact that nearly everyone in this episode was a fool in one way or another. Some fools for love, some simply acting foolishly, others doing both. Let's get right to it, shall we? Well, where to start after that last rousing season that ended on with a lot of questions? I will say that. We begin, as we always do, with Viola. She is torn about the issue of helping the faunwitch go against Price Raffia, owing to the height of the stakes. To settle her mind, Viola does, as the faunwitch suggested she do last season. Viola goes into the woods to listen to the wind in the willows to get an answer. The wind whispers that it was not Stalk who ransacked Viola's apothecary. As you recall last season, the apothecary was ransacked. She believed it was a longtime friend, Stalk, and that belief caused a disagreement and argument, thereby severing the lifelong friendship. It was awful. No. The ransacker of the apothecary was family friend and schemer, yes, you know as well as I, Magnolia. Thus, Viola has been blaming Stalk for a crime of which he was absolutely innocent. Well, we know what became of that. That drove him into the arms of an unknown species, a kitty diddleleaf, with whom he's been keeping time. Viola's sister, Calilly Bramble, who has recently taken up as an empath, which I believe is perfectly suited to her skill set and her emotionalism and her sensitivity. As you know, she has a new client, and she's been successful as an empath for this client. The client, whom we learned last season, is a cousin of Price Raffia of the Unseelie Court. This client has been flirting with Calilly. She doesn't realize she's being courted until a coworker tells her. Now that could be a sticky wicket in so much as Price Raffia is trying to ruin the Bramble family, even though they are one of the oldest in the fairy ring and certainly one of the most respected. Slate, as we know, at the end of last season, he went to Monte Casino with his good friend Brook. They caroused, they cavorted. Slate ended up married while at Monte Casino in an inebriated state to a waitress named Dahlia. What happened next, when he went to meet his bride, sober, to see what she was like in the light of day, he ended up meeting her mother, Lena, and unfortunately fell madly for Lena, and has no interest in Dahlia whatsoever. She was a dalliance. Oh, the wit. You just know the writers inferred that when they gave her the name Dahlia. Oh, I do love their wit. Well, Lena, Dahlia's mother, wants nothing to do, so she says. Actions speak louder than words, but she says she cannot be with Slate because he is with her daughter. And so he stays at Monte Casino to woo her, thereby racking up an impressive hotel bill. In this episode, he tries being the key word here, to ask Dahlia for a divorce. Unfortunately, that is when he does mention she was just a dalliance. That goes over about as well as one would imagine. Back at home, in the ring, in the Weald, Citron, as you recall, has been courted herself. Caught on video, skinny dipping at the beginning of last season, and Jephrin posted about it on societal media. Well, you can imagine, Citron went after him, trying to find out who would do such a thing. It turns out they've become rather taken with each other. Meanwhile, June, one of the girls that had been with Citron when they were caught skinny dipping, June's name is short for Juniper, we use those names interchangeably, she herself has fallen for Jephrin and has come up with her own scheme to get Citron out of the way, going as far as to collude with the faunwitch, with whom Viola is potentially working. June says she can get a lock of Price Raffia's hair as needed for the concoction the faunwitch wants Viola to use or to brew to turn the faunwitch out of faun shape and back into human witch shape. My, as you can see, these webs are so interwoven. Because of her jealousy over Citron's relationship with Jephrin, June sends Citron on a fool's errand, saying she's going to meet Jephrin, and Juniper takes her to the spot. When they get there, Juniper shoves Citron into a hole, not any sort of hole, a wormhole. Now Citron is who knows where, in what dimension, in what galaxy, in what universe. What a way to start the season! Bravo, writers, bravo! As you recall from the end of last season, the matriarch of the Bramble family, Pearl Nettlebottom, whom most refer to as Nanny Nettlebottom, was very ill and had gone into the foggy forest to give up her last breath. While there, old Milliam comes upon her and says that he can give her a reason to live. What might that reason be? We'll have to find out next week. They left us there, left us on that cliff. Turning to everyone's favorite schemer, Magnolia. As you recall, being that she's long been in love with Slate, she has followed Slate and Brook to Monte Casino, where they went for their weekend away. And when she finds out about the situation with Slate, she is obviously very upset. She doesn't put any stock in the marriage, to be sure, but she enlists the help of Brook to win Slate as a paramour. And how she does this is by offering to help Brook with his own difficulties. He had pledged himself to a mob boss. Originally, I was led to believe it was a herd boss. However, that would be involved with livestock. And in this case, being that he is of the ring, it is someone from Terrace, Earth. He is a moss boss. I don't recall the name of the moss boss. We'll have to find that out. There's so many names on this show. So, the moss boss, to whom Brook pledged fealty in a moment of weakness, the moss boss has given Brook a task, a quest, so to speak. Brook is to collect a debt from a pair of wood trolls the size of houses, or each the size of one house. These wood trolls, oh no, they're called lumber trolls. That's right, lumber trolls. Not only because they are made of wood, but because they lumber. With each step they take, the entire earth shakes and quakes, and often there are what are considered syncopated earthquakes. Syncopated because they've got a rhythm to them. Well, that is the lumbering trolls lumbering. There are two trolls who have gone into exceeding great debt at Monte Casino playing the games. And the moss boss, from whom they borrowed the money, wants the money back. What a little fae the size of Brook can do, well, it's not much. However, with the scheme of Magnolia at his side, we shall see. moving on, as we recall, Stalk had fallen to the charms of Katie Diddleleaf. I believe her name is Rosie, but I most call her Katie. That's the nickname that's stuck on societal media with the fans. So, whereas originally she was introduced as Rosie, we all call her Katie now because she is a Katie Diddleleaf. He has fallen for this little pink insect. It's not an insect. I will have to look up what sort of being she is, but she looks like a leaf. Now, he, as we know, was very heartbroken over his treatment from Viola, with whom he'd been in love forever, she treating him as a friend for the most part. And once she became the chief healer for the ring at the beginning of last season, all of her focus went there. The friendship was strained and non-existent in last season. And now, as we know at the end of last season, Katie Diddleleaf pressured Stalk into helping her take her revenge against the spiders who killed Katie Diddleleaf's entire family, rendering them nearly extinct. So we will see what comes of it. However, what did come out of this episode was that Stalk, not quite willing to massacre an entire colony of spiders, has decided to employ natural remedies to get the spiders to simply leave. We'll see how that works out. Now for Prince Raffia. He, as you know, was just a mention on the show originally, but he's become a fan favorite. Oh, who does not love a bad boy? And Raffia is no exception. Well, he's become what they call a season regular, or series regular. In the latest episode, he's been pressuring and cajoling Mayor Hollow, the mayor of the realm, to fire Viola as healer of the ring. We know from experience and precedent, Mayor Hollow, while innocuous, is just that, innocuous. He is not very effective. So how he will manage to do anything, I don't know. However, he is a politician and can be swayed. I do hope he's able to stave off Raffia's influence. Otherwise, the Brambles are in dire straits. As we know, Raffia wants them completely kicked out of the realm at large. And one must look into the history there to find out the details of that feud. It seems to be a one-way feud. It seems to be Raffia is the one that dislikes the Brambles. However, the Brambles don't seem to share in that hatred. Last is the character Dodd Hoskins. As you recall from last season, Dodd Hoskins is a human who hit a tree. He fell asleep at the wheel, ran into a tree in the ring, rather than bring about his demise, as most fae would, especially the Unseelie. Nanny Nettlebottom rescued him. As you further recall, the tree that he hit was not doing all right and threatened litigation. Several of our viewers have jumped on the bandwagon to protest the treatment of the tree. It was a stunt tree. I assure you, no actual trees were harmed. However, it has really done a lot, that episode, to spur conversation as applies to arbor rights. Well, Dodd Hoskins is not in this episode. The reason being, the actor who portrays him is doing what they call a blockbuster. Well, if busting blocks is anything like running into a tree, that block does not stand much of a chance. All right. As one might expect, this episode was well received and viewed by whillions across the omniverse, setting records. Not all appreciated the way that they entered the new season, but it did get a solid 4 mushroom rating. As always, we will take 3 calls from interested viewers with something to say of import. We will have no more Baba Booies, no more Frodo Lives. Please stick to the episode at hand. But before that, we would like to introduce a new sponsor to Bramble On. It is the Walking Sleeping Bag and is available at the Amazonian digital store. I will read part of the description right off of the page on the Amazonian site. It says, distinctive sleeping bag design, the holes and the bottom can be unzippered so adults and kids can stay cozy in the bag, as well as walking around freely and stretching your arms out for reading, working, and texting. This design is very suitable for indoor and outdoor, and you can zipper when you want to sleeping. The side zipper also can be unzipper to be used as blanket. I read directly from the site, by the way. This next bit is interesting. Our sleeping bag withstands the weather of up to 14 degrees Fahrenheit. So apparently not over 14 degrees Fahrenheit, which takes out a good deal of North America. And it can stay warm and cozy even when it's 23 degrees. I don't even know what to say about that. The cotton stuffing is pure and lightweight. It is very portable to be carried out for camping, traveling, and hiking. The camping sleeping bag use a fabric for high-end clothing, for soft, warm, and breathable. It's like you're sleeping on a cloud. This materia keeps heat in and moisture out. Sleeping on a cloud, I believe those in nitron, the air element, will not take kindly to these slurs upon their culture. Let's see if there's anything else. When packing for an outdoor adventure, saving space is the name of the game. Simply stash the Sportneer hoodie single sleeping bag in the included carrying bag for quick and compact storage. Adults and kids. So I believe they're referring to goats. Goats can use our 4-season sleeping bag without sleeping bag liner in multiple weather conditions. It's a perfect sleeping bag for outdoor, indoor camping trips, those that occur outdoors and indoors at the same time, one supposes. It says, and it is also perfect for Boy Scouts or mountain hiking. Also works as camping comforter. Perhaps if you get poison ivy or stub a toe, it comforts you, rather like Calilly does as an empath. And so rush out and get your, whatever that long phrase was stuck in the middle of the entire thing, your Sportneer hoodie single sleeping bag. And if you are listening to this as opposed to watching this segment, do take a moment to look at the included images taken from the Amazonian page. It will do you good. Now, let's get to our callers. Caller number 1. What say you?
Yes! Viola finally realizes Stalk was guiltless in the apothecary ransacking. Maybe this will be the turning point of the tide that makes Viola realize how wonderful Stalk is. I've been waiting decades for these two to get together. If I have to wait much longer, I might just scream, and I can scream loud.
Ah, yes, I too was very, very relieved that finally, Viola has realized that Stalk is innocent. He would never hurt a hair of her little head. And to think he would ransack. When will this family realize that Magnolia is bad news and certainly no friend of theirs? You'll excuse me, I had to take a bite of croissant. I was too upset. What you said about waiting for Stalk and Viola to get together, you are not alone, my friend. I've been waiting for it since first I started viewing them. Their relationship, their chemistry is undeniable. Thank you so much for being the first caller of the 1769th season of Love Among the Brambles. Moving on to caller 2.
Hi. My name is Tiki, and I am just very worried about Magnolia, Brook, confronting those lumber trolls. What if Brook gets a splinter? He's very delicate, and I worry about him often. Well, there's just always so much to worry about where he's concerned. Magnolia, well, for as far as I'm concerned with Magnolia, let the trolls squash her to jelly. Thanks. Bye.
I believe Brook getting a splinter from the lumber trolls is the least of his worries. Yes, I do realize he's delicate, but my goodness, what they are facing. As I said, these lumber trolls are each the size of a building. Actually a house, but you'd have to tip the house on its end because, the lumber trolls are tall. As for Magnolia, you're suggesting you wouldn't mind if she was squashed to jelly. One might go so far as to say that's not very nice. Let's move on to caller number 3.
Okay, so I know it's probably wrong and all, but I totally have a crush on Price Raffia. And that's bad, isn't it? Well, I know he's an instigator and causes so much trouble for the Brambles, but I just can't seem to help myself. I've written a lot of fan fiction about him, and like a whole lot. I'm thinking about sending it into the show. Do you think they'll use it in scripts? Well, now I'm upset A's. Gotta run.
Again, caller, you are not alone, but Prince Raffia receives an inordinate amount of fan mail. In addition to many, many, many images of scantily clad fans, that's putting it generously, there's rarely any clothing involved. Many have offered to have his child. Most seem to be incapable of separating the actor from his role. The actor has had to move house more than once as a result. He does have a very rabid fan base. As for the writers using your fan fiction, one wouldn't hold one's breath. You do realize that the writers not only are paid professionals who are doing the writing, but also they are in a union, and that union has a contract with the show. Do tune in next Plulume for episode 15917, Resetting the Board, when Viola expresses contrition, Calilly mentions a conflict of interests, and June's sabotagery backfires. For now, friends, as always, keep calm and bramble on.